Hi, my name is Elise Mansour, and today I will be presenting on Chapter 8, which is Radio and Digital Audio. We can begin by going to the first slide. So, just a brief introduction. The radio and digital audio industries have been fragmenting audiences on the audio and radio choices depending on a listener's preferences. 93% of the US population, ranging from ages 12 and older, are still listening to the traditional broadcasting radio, and 73%, ranging from ages 18 and up, listen to radio via smartphones or the internet. We can continue to the next slide. So, the history of radio. Radio was first invented by Thomas Alva Edison, and the first phrase to ever be recorded was "Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow." On March 1st, 1993, Nikola Tesla gave his first public demonstration of the radio. And the first radio transmission happened on December 24th on Christmas Eve in 1906, and it featured Reginald Fesson playing "O Holy Night" on his violin and him reading a Bible passage. This was then transferred to shipment overseas. We can continue on to the next slide. And this is history continued. During World War I, there was a ban placed on all radio stations, which left room for department stores, universities, churches, entrepreneurs, etc., to start their own radio stations. And this actually increased within 4 years. Radio stations went from a total of 34 stations to 378. We can continue on to the next slide. So now we're going to get into analog radio versus digital radio. The difference between the two is just how the audio is represented. With digital radio, the sound is represented as a wave. And a radio wave is an electromagnetic wave that is transmitted by an antenna. And this is why when you're in the car, you can turn into a certain frequency and listen to a certain radio station. An analog radio is a sound that it has a physical representation of a sound wave, such as a CD or a cassette tape. We can continue on to the next slide. So, radio waves are waves of energy that are converted into an electrical patterns that imitate a sound wave. And those electrical waves are then bundled together with a carrier wave and transmitted to receivers, such as radios, which are converting those electrical patterns into music. In the 1980s, digital audio hit mainstream in the form of CDs. However, the radio industry was still undergoing a few issues. In 1983, 1 megabyte of storage cost $319, holding 1/4 of a song. This is why pricing at the time to store music was so expensive. We can continue on to the next slide. So we are going to be talking about on-demand versus live streaming next. On-demand services such as Spotify or Pandora allow users to really specify a particular song and hear it instantaneously. On-demand allows listeners to build playlists, and it also offers an offline listening experience so users can tag their favorite songs and listen to them at their convenience. Live streaming, however, is a live transmission of music or programming via the internet. Streaming services use an algorithm of what listeners like, dislike, and skip. We can continue on to the next slide. Next, we are going to be discussing the form of audio that is known as podcasting. Now, podcasting has grown immensely huge over the past several years. So what is podcasting? Podcasting is the digital audio recording that's similar to episodic or themed programs. And podcasting can be downloaded on a mobile device, a computer, or a multimedia player. It has grown steadily over the past couple years, with 2.6 million podcasts being downloaded from the hosting service Libsyn. From there, 63% of podcasts were downloaded on mobile devices. We can continue on to the next slide. So radio turns to video. The majority of radio stations have a website that is connected to their social media pages and also include video. Radio stations are trying to brand themselves as an entertainment package that bundles both video, audio, and social media in one. The industry is still going strong with 265 million Americans listening every week. Radio is still the go-to source for listening. However, if radio is to survive in this day and age, it will need to continue to innovate and adapt to technology. We can continue on to the next slide, which goes into our question. So this chapter really talked about what the future of radio will hold. So my question for all of you is in future years to come, how do you see radio and audio evolving, and what would you like to see implemented into it?